Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Pop Team Epic episodes 5 and 6. So yeah, we're doing 2 episodes. Normally we've only been doing 1, but I feel like since these episodes are so short, they're like 10, 11 minutes each, why not do more? Plus I do have actually extra time, because here's the deal. Today I'm doing this and I'm pre-recording JoJo for tomorrow, but tomorrow my sister and father are actually going to a Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert. It was my sister's Christmas gift to my father. So when they're gone, that's when I'll pre-record the stuff for Sunday. The new Ruby episode airs on Rooster Teeth first this weekend, but because there was none last week for the holidays, there won't be an actual Ruby upload this weekend. We have to wait till next weekend for that. But heck, maybe I can actually record it tomorrow either way while they're gone as well. So I'll definitely be getting to Loud House and She-Ra, but maybe I'll get to Ruby as well. We'll have to see. Either way, so with the with this series, as I've said before, especially last week, there's not much of anything to talk about. It's literally what it is. It's a series of random ass short skits that have absolutely no relevance to each other. Sure, some of the skits will be done in the same style, like the Bob Epic Team ones, but in reality, they're just random skits. Popko and Peepamy usually use the same. They have the same names and everything in each one. They're, I guess, the same characters, but it's more like actors portraying fictionalized versions of themselves over and over and over again. It's kind of like, I've compared it to Saturday Night Live before, it's kind of like that, except Saturday Night Live has some connectivity. They have some reoccurring skits and stuff. And again, the only thing that is kind of like that for this is just having the same kinds of skits with like Bob Team Epic and stuff. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of random shit. And it's so fucking random. Like with the last episode with having that the alien and everything pretending to be a cat and everything, it's like, what the fuck am I watching? But as I've said, it's not that this show is bad or anything. It's not bad. I wouldn't call it great, and I wouldn't call it really that funny. But it's one of those things that you just can't help but enjoy watching. I guess you could say, you could use the old adage that it's like a car wreck. It's terrible, but you can't look away. It's one of those kind of situations where it's just like, you kind of almost feel bad for watching it, for being so invested in it. It's just like, it's so stupid, so ridiculous. It's not even funny. Again, it's not even, it doesn't give you a chance to find it funny. It's just complete random humor. And sure, I'm sure a lot of people do find random humor funny. The lol, I'm so random kind of humor, it does appeal to some people. And I won't lie, sometimes it does appeal to me, but it has to be done in certain ways. For example, Pinkie Pie and MLP kind of envelops the really random humor sometimes. But even so, it's not quite like this. I will say you never know what's going to happen. I will say that. You never know what's going to happen. One skit can be about Peep and Me taking over the world with an army of Pupkos. Another skit can be about what is being purported as a bobsled race, but actually has nothing to do with bobsledding. And it's just like, what is even... What even? Just what even? is this show? Um, but yeah, it's definitely one of those shows that it would be considered a guilty pleasure. This would be guilty pleasure worthy. Not because it's bad, not because it's like really insulting or really stupid, or well, it is really stupid, but it's not because it's like the worst show ever or anything, but you like it anyways. No, it's a guilty pleasure because it's like it there's nothing to it. It's so random, so just out of touch with life, out of touch with everything. It's just, yeah, I have no other way to put it. Um, but either way, we do have 2 episodes we're doing. Once again, we're only watching through it once. We're not going to watch through both versions of it. Um, because it's just like save on time, as well as just because I don't, I can watch some things multiple times in a row. I can. But usually it has to really appeal to me to do that. And it has to be something like, oh, I'm watching different people's reactions to it. Or again, it just has to really appeal to me. Like, I've watched certain episodes of Steven Universe or Legend of Korra or whatnot multiple times in a row. But it's like, yeah, I adore those shows. MLP as well. But, and of course, I've watched many I've watched, I think, like, at one point, I watched probably a dozen reactions to the same episode of MLP all in a row, in one sitting. Just, like, nothing but reactions to that one episode. I think that might have been the 100th episode. It was either that one or Amending Fences, one of the two. I know it was right around that time, and it was definitely one of those two, because those were big ones for me. Because, I mean, obviously the 100th episode being as amazing as it was, plus just being the 100th episode and wanting to see how people reacted to specific things in there. But Amending Fences, because that episode is still my favorite episode of MLP, and honestly, in my eyes, one of the most important episodes. And honestly, one of, if not the only episode that is so perfectly written. But I'm not going to get into all that here, because this isn't about MLP. But yeah, it was one of those. But, like, I can't watch this more than once in a row. I can't watch the exact same thing twice in a row just because it has different voices. I can't do that. I don't have the strength. I'm not good enough for that. But in all seriousness, yeah, it's just like, this is one of those shows that it's like, I can see why you want to see me react to it. As I said last time, I completely understand why this won the vote. But again, it's not like this is ever going to reach anywhere near my top 10. It won't even reach my top 20. Probably not even my top 30. But it's fun enough to watch. It's like a car wreck. It's terrible, but you can't look away. So we are going to get on with 2 more episodes today. So when the screen fades to black, pause the redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts. And will contain spoilers. Through the episode, excuse me. So that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we will begin with spoilers, I guess. In 3, 2, 1, now. Well, that was a thing. That was a... Yeah. That was interesting. These episodes had more to them. Each episode actually had one big storyline-based skit in them. And I think I'm going to talk about those ones specifically, because the rest of it was just, again, a lot of the random humor and random shit that this show's kind of known for, I guess. So I'm just going to talk about each of those, like, the actual story ones. So episode 5 had this one centering around this high school girl who was in love with her senpai. Pretty standard anime trope. And another pretty standard anime trope, her father marries his mother and they become step-siblings. And it's, like the entire concept of the forbidden love and everything, because they're technically brother and sister now. But also, technically, they're still not actually related. And so I guess that loophole allows them to get married and have kids eventually. Even after she stabbed him because she was trying to kill their parents. It did go in a really interesting direction there for a minute. And the parents and their children were both portrayed by Pipimi and Pipimi and Popko, which is disturbing, especially since the art style with them just was extremely different. I don't really have anything to say on whether or not I liked it. It was obviously playing to those tropes, which, yeah, okay. It was just kind of one of those things that was, it was definitely making a statement. It was being overly ridiculous on purpose to show just how ridiculous those kinds of shows are. And it's like, yeah, they are. I mean, if you like those kinds of shows, by all means, enjoy the hell out of them. Love them, get into the characters and whatnot. That's great. But they're ridiculous. Let's be honest. They're ridiculous. They're silly. They're very, very generic and over the top. And a lot of the times they play with the same exact tropes. And that's what this little skit was basically making fun of. But in episode 6 had honestly the more interesting one. This one was kind of a play on Hikaru no Go. You see, I haven't seen all of Hikaru no Go or read all of the manga, but I have read a little bit of the manga and seen a couple episodes. Hikaru no Go is about this kid named Hikaru who starts to get into the Japanese tabletop game Go. And he ends up getting basically possessed by a spirit of a famous, I want to say he was a feudal lord. But he was also really talented at Go, and his name is, I believe, Fujiwara no Sai. And Sai helps Hikaru basically become a star Go player. It's really kind of silly and over the top and everything, and I never really got hugely into it. But there was definitely that kind of concept there with like these spiritual Pipimi appearing to help Popko win and everything. But then there is obviously it went into a completely different direction. I like the idea of the 4 masters of shogi, kind of like parodying the Elite Four for Pokemon. And I like how they were all so vastly different. You had the first dude who was just like an ordinary looking businessman almost. Just an ordinary dude, basically. The second one, this queen, like over the top rich girl looking thing, had the fancy coat and everything. The third guy was Heihachi Mishima from Tekken. It was just straight up Heihachi. Like his design was like 100% just Heihachi. I mean, outside of being a robot. Obviously, he went by a different name, but it was Heihachi. And then the fourth and final one was Robot Pipimi, who was really behind the spirit that was with Popko. And it was basically like she was basically possessing players to make them better, to make the game better. And I love that joke. I did love that joke. Where it's like, frightening, isn't it? It's like, that was funny as hell. I think that's one of the few, if not one of the, just like, only times this show has ever actually, like, made a joke that really was that legitimately funny to me. I mean, there have been a couple parts where it got, like, maybe a chuckle, but I think that was one of the only times that it was actually legitimately, like, legit funny. um, yeah, it's like that was actually a real good joke. Um, so yeah, I think I enjoyed these two episodes more than I usually enjoy this show. Because again, most of the time with the show, it's just the really random humor, and I'm like, and like I said in the beginning in my pre-thoughts, it's terrible, but you can't look away. It's stupid as hell. There's no point to any of it, but it's something that you just can't stop watching. But these two episodes, with each one having that story-based skit to it, I think these two were two of the best episodes of the show, and actually, like, legitimately so. Because, again, with episode five's story skit with the entire step-sibling senpai relationship thing, like, yeah, that it's clearly parodying that classic trope anime, that classic style of anime that is exceedingly stereotypical and extremely ridiculous. And again, if you like that kind of anime, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, it is. You can still like something if it's ridiculous. I mean, hell, JoJo is a great example of that. But it's just like, it's clearly a parody of it. It's not just this random humor using it as a reference. It's straight up parodying it. And I think it does so well. It definitely makes fun of the tropes in a reasonable way. It actually goes against your expectations with having the entire part with her trying to just straight up murder the parents, and having her stepbrother take the stabbing instead, but surviving it still. And then they actually get together and have kids, apparently. So it's like it actually does a legitimately good job at being a parody of that genre of anime. So I actually have to give it some legitimate credit for that. And with episode six's story, it was actually legitimately funny and interesting. I actually got into it, which I cannot say about almost any other skit that this show does. Whether it be these cooking skits, the Bob Team Epic skits, the just random shit they pull off every episode, I don't really get into it like I did with that skit. Maybe it's because it reminded me of Hikaru no Go. Maybe it's because of each of the not Elite Four being a very ridiculous, over-the-top trope. Maybe it's because of the fact that it actually had a story to it, but I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but I actually really got into it and really found it hilarious. Again, just the fact that the one guy was just Heihachi Mishima, just going under a different name and being a robot, was hilarious to me. I'm a big Tekken fan, by the way. Like, I think I've mentioned that before. Tekken is my favorite fighting game franchise. So it's like, yeah, that definitely appeals to me, having that kind of thing in there. And, yeah, I actually had fun with these episodes. Yes, there were still the skits that were total what the fuck moments. Oh, completely. But overall, these were easily two of the best, if not the best, episodes of this show. I'm honestly hoping that this is where the show continues to go from this point on. I want it to do more of this. Now, of course, most of the skits can still be random shit, but have these, like, one skit an episode that actually has a storyline to it, that actually tries to be just a legitimate parody instead of just referencing shit. And that is how you do this kind of comedy. It comes out of nowhere, it's still random as hell, but it's a legitimate parody that actually seems to understand what it's parodying, and actually seems to truly respect it in a way. A good parody respects what it's parodying. It doesn't, like, treat it as if it's just absolute shit that needs to be made fun of. It respects what it's parodying and respects it for the potential to be parodied. And I think that this these two episodes actually did that well with those two skits I mentioned. So yeah, I am actually impressed by this set of episodes, and I'm glad I did them back to back. Because even if more episodes like this come in the future, I'm really glad that I did both of these back to back. It just felt like it gave me hope for the show. It honestly did. It actually ignited a legitimate interest in this show for me and gave me hope for the future episodes. Now, again, this is like a short series. We're like halfway through at this point. So it's not like we've got a lot more to go. But I actually am interested and excited to see what they go with next, to see how much more they can do. And hopefully they live up to those hopes and expectations. Hopefully this series actually does start to become more than just the random shit. I want to see why this is as popular as it is. This is a really popular show. I can understand why it's popular, but so far I've not been able to understand why it's as popular as it is. But if this is going to start going where I am hoping it is, and where these two episodes kind of possibly hint at where it's going, if it's going to start living up to that, I can definitely see it. Because again, good parody that respects what it's parodying is always fantastic. Now, I again, don't think this is going to ever reach even my top 30 favorite shows. It still doesn't do comedy as well. Even with these episodes, it doesn't do comedy as well as something like, say, Nichijou. But it's not... It's definitely got potential. It's got potential, and I have to give it credit for that. I have to give credit where credit's due. And I'm really, once again, hoping that this is a sign of good things to come with this series. But we'll find out next week. So, in the meantime, tell me what you thought of these two episodes of Pop Team Epic in the comments below. Tell me your thoughts on the story-based segments that each of these episodes had. Tell me your thoughts on the references that were featured in them. And just tell me what you thought of them in comparison to past episodes as well. In comparison to how the past ones were just a lot more just random shit out of nowhere. And these ones actually seem to have some, like, semblance of effort put into them. Tell me your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below. And thank you so much once again for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh.